your city car. NFL coach and creator of Never Flinch 7, Steve Hagen.
Well, Steve, this is exciting for me. I mean, we talked a little bit of backstage. You know, you're an NFL football coach. You've coached with the Cleveland Browns and now with the New York Jets as their tight end coach. Your story about where you came from, one of the greatest organizations, in my opinion, on the planet, the Dallas Cowboys organization, which I'm excited about. But also you coached at some really great colleges, the University of Notre Dame, North Carolina, University of Illinois, and the list goes on and on and on and on. And you've also authored 2 books, Lessons from the Locker Room and Leaders Fit. And so we're Leaders Lift.
Yeah.
Fit would be a good title too, because you know you got to work out with everybody.
That's right.
Anyway, it's great to have you here, and let's get right into it, because I think when you first started telling me about kind of where you grew up and how you got connected to the Dallas Cowboys, I mean, I got to tell you, this is God, because God knows I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, and so He put
the only
you here
New Yorker who's
just so we can talk about this. Tell us about how where you grew up influenced what you're doing now.
I grew up in Thousand Oaks, California, and that's where the Dallas Cowboys used to come to train for, you know, do their summer training camp. And they were out there about 6-7 weeks every summer. And I probably was the envy of my neighborhood, because I was one of the few kids that got chosen to be a ball boy for them.
I'm pretty envious right now.
And I was 8 years old, and my father worked at the university there, California Lutheran. And he was asked if he knew of anybody that he could gather up to be ball boys. And he says, well, I have 4 boys myself. He said, bring them on. So from the time I was 8 to the time I graduated through college, I worked with the Dallas Cowboys every summer, and I loved it.
Incredible. And that was back in the heyday, right?
Yeah, I mean, they've been good since, but probably not as good as, I'm biased, you know, because I was a huge
When have they been good since, I want to know?
Well, they were good with Jimmy Johnson, but I was a huge Tom Landry fan, and still am. And it was just fun being around that. You know, you don't know, when you're 8 years old, you don't know. You're just throwing footballs and picking up laundry and doing whatever they tell you to do. But as you get older and you're sitting there going, you know, I'm around Tom Landry. This is pretty cool. And then, you know, he's had such an impact on so many men. And so I just saw that, and I thought, you know what, I could do that one day.
What was it about Tom Landry that kind of spilled over onto you? I mean, it's pretty widely reported that he was a Christian man, and he operated by Christian values. Did that impact you?
Oh, absolutely. He, very disciplined, very structured, very Christian. He was just really, you know, looking back at him, he wasn't a yeller, screamer coach. You know, sometimes you see on TV a coach yelling at somebody or screaming them or snatching them up. That wasn't Coach Landry. He'd be like, we need to get that fixed, okay? And, and they got it fixed. Usually they got it fixed real quick, because for every mental error, they would have to run a 440 around the track. So if you had one mental error at practice, so you got 4 mental errors and you got to go around that track in 60 seconds 4 times, you'll learn quick. Or you'll leave on what they call the whisper jet.
So did his coaching style influence kind of your desire to want to be a coach?
Oh, yeah.
The way in which you coach other people?
Oh, absolutely. When I first got out of college, my first job was back in Dallas with the Cowboys, and I worked on the business side in the business office in the Cowboys. And I was doing all that, and I was like, you know what, this is not my deal. I'd rather do what they're doing over there. And that's when I got into coaching. Mm-hmm. So Coach Landry had a huge impact on me, but I mean, he had great guys coaching on that staff. I don't know if y'all remember, he had Gene Stallings, great Christian guy, Dan Reeves. I mean, he had some great guys. And then the players on that team, Roger Staubach, you can name them, you know.
Yes.
So, it was just fun growing up, because, you know, the kids in my neighborhood be like, hey, can you take me to practice day? I'm like, nah, I don't think I can work that out. I'm going to go play catch with Roger Staubach and Drew Person and those guys.
That's great. So and since, you know, you started there, but then you coached in a lot of great places, and one of them in particular was Notre Dame.
Yeah, Notre Dame is, I mean, you know, I was from California, so, USC, UCLA, all those schools, the Pac-10. But then you hear about Notre Dame, and everybody knows Notre Dame. Notre Dame is the school you either root for or you root against, but you watch them no matter what. And to have an opportunity to go there, a friend of mine was coaching there at the time, and he called me up, and he's like, hey, Hags, you want to come coach at Notre Dame? And I was like, picked the phone up off the floor. I'm like, what is this? I thought I was getting punked or, pranked or whatever they call it, and I'm like, what? I said, and then I was like, I don't even know if I recognize the guy's voice, and I was like, are you serious? He's like, yeah, we need a receiver coach to come out here and help us. I was like, yeah, tomorrow? When you want to go? I'm there. So that all happened so quick. But then going there, and I was so blessed because Coach Lou Holtz was the head coach when I got there. And just being around him, and, he's so motivational. And y'all see him on TV now, and it was just so fun. And we had great players. I mean, we had Tony Rice, Rocket Ismail, Ricky Waters. I mean, the list goes on and on.
You talked about, backstage when we were communicating, how that experience there led you to start a ministry that you're now kind of running, and it's called Never Flinch 7. So talk about how your experience at Notre Dame caused you to launch this ministry, and then tell us a little bit about what the ministry does and how it helps, to disciple people and help them to be everything that God wants them to be.
You can get through a lot of things if you don't stop yourself.
Right.
If you never flinch. And, you may get hit in the mouth, but if you don't flinch, you can come back. But if you flinch, then the other guy's going to hit you in the mouth harder and keep coming at you, and then he knows he's got you. And so what I started thinking about was, as a Christian, one of my favorite Bible verses is Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ. Or as a team, we can do all things through Christ. And to me, those are the 7 most powerful words in the Bible. So when you hook never flinch and 7 together, it's pretty powerful. You can win football games 2-0 or 3-0, but it's hard. Touchdowns are worth 7 points, so it all kind of worked together. I'm a football coach and never flinch 7. We're in the playoffs right now. We're not. The Jets aren't in the playoffs right now, but the NFL is in the playoffs right now. And if you watch these teams on TV, the ones that are winning, they're not flinching. And they are making that other team back down, whether it's great defense, whether they're running the football. And there's some great quarterbacks that are playing the game right now.
Right.
You got Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. And those guys, they don't flinch. And they're in front of millions of people. They're in the stadium. They got the weather. They got rain blowing in their face. And they're not flinching. And they're getting on their teammates to not flinch. And it's just awesome.
So when you talk to groups, you talk to youth
groups. You ready
groups.
To play ball?
When you talk to youth groups and even college groups and mentor kids and things like that, how do you take that lesson of never flinching and turn it into a spiritual discipleship for young men and young women who you speak to?
Well, thankfully, the platform that I have as an NFL football coach, or when I was in college too, allows me to go out in front of groups. And, you were a kid. I was a kid. We all were kids once. And kids do what kids do. And they're influenced by things that some can't control. Drugs, sex, rock and roll, all the different things that happen to them. And so I talked to them about never flinching, because somebody's going to come up and say, hey, dude, buy this weed. Or, hey, I got a joint. It's not going to cost you anything. You can have it. And I talk to my own kids. I have 4 kids, and I talk to them about that. Somebody's going to give you something, and you got to not flinch. You got to stay the course, and you got to be strong. And no, that's not me. I don't do that. And don't flinch. And if you can do that, and you can stay the course and get through those crazy years, hopefully you come out the other side where you got a little bit of common sense, and that you can carry it on through the rest of your life. But if you flinch in that time period, you could end up in jail. You could end up in somebody's gutter. You could end up 6 feet under. There's a lot of bad places you can end up if you flinch. And so that's what I talk to them about. Don't flinch. Right. You're going to have plenty of opportunities thrown right at you, given to you for free.
Yeah.
but just don't flinch.
You know, the greatest example of not flinching's got to be Jesus when he went to the cross.
How about that?
He had every opportunity to flinch.
Yeah.
And he did it because of
For
you and
you.
me. Amen.
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 That's why you're the pastor.
Yeah.
I just coach football. He leads a church. That's how you come up with those stories.
You've been in locker rooms. You've been around great men and authoritative figures in the sports arena who have taught lessons in the locker room. And you wrote a book called Lessons from the Locker Room. What was the motivation behind that? And maybe we can talk about a couple of the lessons.
Well, you know what's really cool about a locker room, and it's different. I've played other sports. I've played basketball, and I've run track, and I've been on soccer teams and stuff. But just my own biased opinion, a locker room, a football locker room, is kind of a microcosm of a grander community.
Yes.
You got everybody. I mean, you got black, white, Christian, Muslim. You got them all in there. And there's so many lessons to be learned because we all got to live together, and the objective is to win the game. Right. And it doesn't matter where you're from or who you are, how tall you are. The great thing about football, there's so many different positions and there's so many different dynamics. It doesn't matter what size you are. I mean, there's guys in the NFL that are this big and they're flying down the field. And then there's guys that are gigantic that are mashing people, you know, and it's just fun because there's so many different guys. So there's so many different, you don't think that's fun? I don't think it's fun getting hit by them either, but there's so many different guys in a locker room, and it makes up our community. Mm-hmm. And we got to pull together. We got to, you know, obviously not flinch when we're faced with adversity, because football games are full of adversity. You know, getting twisted up. There's highs and lows. There's all sorts of things that go on, and it's such a great analogy for life because, you know, we don't walk out our door every day and it's the same. You know, it's high, it's low, it's sideways, it's upside down, and you got to figure it out. And as a team, collectively, and that's what the locker room is. Right. And that's what people miss. You know, guys, I've coached so many guys. But when they're done playing, because you will be done playing, they miss the locker room. They miss the camaraderie of the fellowship of the locker room. They miss the money. They miss this. They miss that. But they miss the locker room. Yeah. You know, and we all need a locker room.
I think it's like that in life. You know, that's why I think the local church, for example, is so important, because we need that community to come to where we can be built up, where we can confess what we're going through, where we can receive encouragement, you know, where we can get, you know, repaired when we're broken in life. And having played sports my entire life, you get some of that in the locker room, but I'll tell you what, nothing's like the local church.
That's right. Plug. You know what, though? And I totally agree, Frank, because, you know, when I'll go out and talk to churches, and I'll say, you know what, because everything's a football analogy to me, not everything, but a lot of things are. The church is a huddle, and you got the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, you got them all in there, okay? And it's just like a football huddle. You got a center, a guard, a wide receiver, a quarterback. They all have different jobs, but they're all going to try to accomplish one goal. Yes. And it's just like this, you know, in a huddle, a church huddle, you know, you have a butcher, you got a baker, you got a banker, they all have different jobs, but the real job is to go tell people about Jesus.
That's right.
And, you know,
that's right.
So.
Yeah. The analogy is really a terrific one when it comes to knowing that everybody has a role to play.
That's right.
You know, if a lineman tries to play the role of the quarterback, the team doesn't work too good. You know, everybody's got to play their role. And I think what makes us effective in life is when we just are comfortable with who God made us to be.
That's right.
And if we're the best us that we can be, then we work better, the church works better, the community works better, the team works better. And that's kind of what you're getting out of it.
You know what? I think you read the book already.
Coach, I'll tell you what's in the future for you? What's God got planned for you in the future?
We got to win a Super Bowl. You know? Why not? If we're doing this, we got to do it right?
Well, listen, the only thing is this, that I'm praying next year that the Cowboys win the Super Bowl. So I don't know if God's going to answer your prayer or my prayer.
I'll have to be on that team. Just, you know, keep coaching, and just hopefully God just continues to bless me so I can bless others. I think that's the only reason God does bless us, so we can go bless others.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's giving you a great platform. You know, do you have a website or something like that? Can people look you up?
You can go on neverflinch.com and, you know, just tool around on that. My son made it. I'm not a pro. And Nash is my son. I have 4 children. I'm going to plug them: Nash, Hannah, Will, and Soren.
Coach, it's been great to have you with us. God bless you. Thanks so much for coming on. Amen. Right now,
Can we get the whole crowd to yell Jets, 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 Jets?
I don't know if we can do that. I don't know if we
can't do that.
Right